Alright, and welcome back to the Shardbreaker podcast. This is episode 4 of The Way of Kings. We did chapters 12 through 15 this week. I am Midnight, your host, and I'm here with Darkness
Hello.
and Mythic.
That was such long chapters.
It was very long chapters. We had 2 very long chapters and then 2 decently sized, pretty short chapters. It was long, short, short, long. So we started part 2 this week, which is The Illuminating Storms, which we get POVs from Dalinar, Kaladin, and Adolin. We first started off with a map of the Shattered Plains, which it just shows how fucking massive this thing is, and that's not even all of the Shattered Plains, that's just what the Alethi have mapped out. It's just absolutely gigantic. And we also get a new type of epigraph. The epigraphs have changed with this part.
Oh, no.
So the epigraph it starts with, Old friend, I hope this missive finds you well. Though, as you are now essentially immortal, I would guess that wellness on your part is something of a given. So yeah, so what did you think of this change? So we went from the dying words of people to a letter.
I mean, it's different POVs, so it makes me believe that the other ones is from one of the other people we have a POV of.
You think each of the epigraphs are gonna be related to someone?
In that whatever block that they're doing. My assumption for the first one now is going to be well, I can't remember the dude's name anymore. Seth.
Oh, Zeth? Yeah.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Darkness?
For a world in where males shouldn't be able to write, a lot of them can.
Well, it's more just the one religion where they don't. So it's 3 or 4 countries where men aren't supposed to write. The other countries they're allowed to. Zeth is allowed to write because he's Shin. And he's not part of the Vorin religion.
Fair.
So yeah, so
I want to be part of the religion that doesn't talk about their god.
Doesn't talk about their god. the pure religion.
Yeah, and then I can just tell people I'm not religious.
Yeah, I'm assuming they can probably also write. The men there. There's probably no thing against them doing that in that religion. But yeah, so we start with a new character's point of view, Adolin. He's listening to King Elhokar and High Prince Sadeas talking about killing a god and that gods should fear the Alethi. It's noted that Adolin is put on edge whenever Sadeas speaks. Renarin, Adolin's brother, asks if they have to write up front, but Adolin replies that he wants to listen in on the conversation. Behind this small group was over 1,000 soldiers in Kholin blue, dozens of servants, and some women to scribe accounts of the hunt. It's noted that Adolin is wearing his shard plate, and that he is to be careful when grabbing his canteen so as not to crush it with his enhanced strength. Sometimes he was still caught off guard by the enhancements the plate gave to him, although he'd gotten it from his mother's side of the family over 7 years ago on his 16th birthday. As he drinks some water, he glances over to the king, noting his father, Dalinar Kholin, is also riding next to him, along with Sadeas and one of the other high princes named Vama, who was not Shardbearer. It's noted that the king is wearing golden shard plate, Sadeas is wearing red shard plate, and Adolin is wearing blue shard plate. However, his father, Dalinar, was the only shardbearer who wore unpainted grey shard plate. So what did you think about we're getting now a POV from the royal family, the important nobles?
The ones that had their person die from Seth? Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting.
When I first realized, different POV right at the beginning, right? I also was like, who the fuck are these people? So
you didn't remember that Dalinar was the king's brother?
No.
He was the guy who was drunk.
Yep.
I know.
Yeah.
Now he's beating himself up over it.
I figured that out at the last chapter.
I actually kind of find it funny that he's beating himself up over it now.
Yeah, he's changed his ways. He's not happy with what happened back then.
I will never drink again.
Also, what do you think about the fact that Dalinar chooses not to paint his shard plate, whereas everyone else has painted it a very specific color?
Seems like a very astute choice.
I mean, I guess he doesn't want to show off.
So Adolin also notes that his father is riding on a black Rhyshadium, which is one of the largest horses Adolin has ever seen. He also thinks about how his father had earned the reputation of being one of the greatest warriors and generals to ever live, given the nickname the Blackthorn. However, he thinks that his father doesn't do much to live up to that reputation anymore. Adolin also mentions visions, saying to Renarin that it happened again last night during the high storm. Renarin pauses and agrees, and Adolin thinks that some people find the way Renarin speaks disconcerting, but Adolin doesn't feel that way. Adolin asks what Renarin thinks of their father's episodes, but Renarin replies that he doesn't know. Adolin says they need to do something, as soldiers in all 10 war camps are talking about it. Adolin thinks at every high storm, Dalinar falls to the ground and shakes and mutters in gibberish. Sometimes he also stands and flails around, and Adolin has to restrain him. Adolin doesn't know what Dalinar sees during his visions, unsure if they are visions of the past. However, he does note that his father speaks often of the Knights Radiant. The whole thing made him feel sick when he thought about his father being a living legend, the Blackthorn, who is losing his wits. What do you think about the fact that Dalinar has these seizures and visions every high storm?
Sounds like a power, superpower.
Do you think he's got some sort of investiture, yeah, ability, but obviously it's people don't know what it is, so they're kind of thinking he's just sick.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's something different. I don't think it comes directly from him.
What do you think it is then?
I feel like, well, we haven't discussed if it's either from the past or the present, but I'm pretty sure it's from the past.
Adolin seems to think that it's related to he's seeing things that he's guilty about, like his brother's death and stuff.
I feel like that could be. No, I feel like there's a separate trigger to what caused this, and we don't exactly know it yet.
All we really know is that it seems to be a more recent thing. It's not something he's had his whole life, and that it specifically happens during high storms. Those are kind of the two main things we know.
Yeah, so it was specifically triggered.
What did you say, Mythic?
I said, why does this guy get to be so special?
Right. That little wind fairy thing is also special. So.
Yep, super special. But she has a reason to be special. She's too good.
Renarin says that they should move back a bit, but Adolin wants to stay up front to keep an eye on Sadeas. He worries that the man is going to go after his father in his weakened state. Sadeas gives a veiled slur at some point about some blades becoming dull, referring to Dalinar, but Dalinar doesn't respond, and Adolin almost unconsciously summons his shard blade before Renarin comments on it, causing Adolin to stop. He then asks Adolin about the hunt, but Adolin mentions that he doesn't really care much about it. Instead, he thinks that dueling is much more interesting. Renarin then brings up a girl named Janala, but Adolin mentions that something happened with a girl named Rila. Renarin disapproves of what happened, but Adolin doesn't elaborate and thinks that it was sort of his fault that this relationship burned out, but it usually isn't his fault. Adolin notices that they're lagging behind a bit and suggests catching up. So what do you think about the relationship between these brothers, Renarin and Adolin?
Can you write their names?
Yep.
Only because I probably pronounced them different.
Renarin and Adolin.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I mean, it's not a bad relationship, right?
No, it seems like Renarin's really good at calming his brother down when he gets kind of hot-headed.
Yeah. I mean, it could be worse, you know?
Sorry, my headset cut out for a second. What'd you say?
I said it could be worse. They could be feuding brothers, so...
Yeah, they seem to have a good relationship. Renarin's very much...
Yeah, it's all a facade,
Anything that is not feuding siblings, trying to kill themselves, anything like that, that's considered a good sibling relationship in my part. So.
So we then switch to Dalinar's point of view as the words "unite them" whisper in his mind. The king is asking if they're almost at the hunting spot, but Dalinar says they're still a few plateaus away, and that it'll likely be another hour. Elhokar, however, spots an area of stone that could be used as a lookout, and instead of sending a scout, he tells Dalinar to race him to the top. Dalinar curses and gallops off after Elhokar. He thinks his nephew is still a boy, even though he's 27 and king, thinking that his attitude of charging off like this is one of the reasons that he still considers him that way. Dalinar shouts for Adolin to take control of securing the next plateau before finding himself enjoying the race. He beats Elhokar to the base of the stone outcropping as he notes that Rhyshadium are more powerful than regular horses, that they specifically choose their riders and can't be forced to belong to just anyone. Both he and his son, Adolin, had one. He then gets off his horse and jumps up 8 feet in the air, feeling the thrill of contest, which he notes isn't as good as the thrill of battle. So what do you think about this thrill of contest and thrill of battle? So I think the thrill is capitalized, specifically.
I mean, a lot of what seems to be happening in this, in this type of story is based on their adrenaline and shit.
I was thinking that, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe the more of the thrill that, obviously your heart pumps faster. Mm-hmm. So, you can get your sword out a little quicker and,
The faster your heart, the faster your sword comes out.
Yeah, exactly. Glad you knew where I was going with that, Darkness.
Also, what were your first impressions of Elhokar, who is currently the king, and he is Yasna's younger brother?
Seems juvenile.
Who the fuck is Yasna?
Yasna is the woman with the soul caster that was in Shallan's chapters. The
Right.
scholar. Yeah.
That's why her name seemed familiar.
Yeah.
Wow,
So she's the sister, the older sister of the king, and the daughter of. She's like Dalinar's niece. Elhokar's Dalinar's nephew. They were like children of the king that died in the prologue.
Wait, they were the children?
Yeah. So Yasna and Elhokar are the kids of Gavilar who died in the prologue.
What the?
I mean, they were.
You see what I mean
adults.
by I didn't like.
I need to like
catch
send you
any
like
of
a
this?
family tree. I need
This,
like a
that
family
would
tree.
help so much.
It really would.
But yeah, so Dalinar then hears Elhokar climbing up next to him and sees him leap upwards as he gets to a part without handholds. He can feel the thrill within him as he gets close to the top. Then he hears the words "unite them" and he hesitates. Elhokar beats him to the top and says that Dalinar gave him a good race, causing Dalinar to smile as he feels that Elhokar needs some victories, as glory spun prop up around him. He allows Elhokar to help him up to the top and tells him that it was a fine contest. He can see the Cobalt Guard riding up to the base of the stone tower, as well as Sadeas, whom he knows only has a shard plate and not a shard blade. So do you agree that it was good of Dalinar to not beat Elhokar to the top?
Yeah, probably.
So,
We know how kings. Well, you know, not. I guess kings, right? Is he a king? He's a king, right?
Elhokar is the king, the one who beat him to the top, yeah.
Right.
And then Dalinar's a high prince.
You know how kings can be with contests.
He let him have this little victory.
What do you mean? He's clearly preparing him with overconfidence in order to assassinate him.
So Elhokar,
like I said, it could be a good thing or a bad thing because kind of like what Darkness just said. He becomes a little overconfident in his abilities and he's not actually really that good.
They're not.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you think you're good, you're gonna go by that standard and you're gonna
Right.
stop practicing as much and you're gonna stop
Just like
thinking,
Midnight.
needing to get better.
do you think maybe that's one of the reasons why he acts the way he does in the battle against the Chasm Fiend?
Yep, for sure. I got this, guys. Nobody else has to help me.
Okay.
I don't know when he was like, why, but like when he was doing that whole shit, I was like picturing like a Sailor Moon transformation.
Oh my gosh.
God.
So Elhokar points out their destination, which is within Dalinar's area of claimed plateaus. Dalinar briefly mentions his brother Gavilar, which sours Elhokar's mood. Dalinar notes that Elhokar is often compared unfavorably to his father. Dalinar then changes the subject, saying that although the race was fun, Elhokar should be more careful as it's a war zone. However, Elhokar says he isn't worried as the Proshendi haven't attacked this close to the war camps in years. Although Elhokar...
Oh man, that's such a good foreshadowing right there.
Right.
Although what
Oh no, they haven't attacked us in this close yet. Okay.
Although Elhokar is worried about assassins, but Dalinar has looked into the potential assassin that Elhokar claimed to see on his balcony, mentions that they couldn't find any evidence of one left behind. What do you think about this paranoia about assassins?
It's true. They need to believe him.
There's no assassins in this book.
Nobody assassinated anybody ever.
Yeah.
No. Why would there be need of paranoia? Like,
who has paranoia again? What was the dude's name?
Elhokar.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I would have paranoia too if my dad was murdered by assassins. So.
As Dalinar continues to look out at the plateaus, he notes that he has stood atop a rock formation like this in one of his visions. He also remembers a voice telling him to unite them, and that the Everstorm is coming. Dalinar wants to tell Elhokar that they should cease fighting and go back to Elhokar, but he doesn't know how to tell Elhokar that he sees visions that he thinks are from the Almighty. Instead, he says nothing.
Funny. I find that so funny. All of these people have such I can summon a sword, but you don't want to tell him you're having visions. I feel like he'd be praised more than anything, especially if your vision comes true.
I feel like having visions is one step below fucking summoning a fucking sword out of nothingness.
Right? Goddamn.
But yeah, so what do you think about these visions that he thinks are from the Almighty, and that they also mention this Everstorm, which we've heard mentioned in the previous epigraphs?
Numerous times. We've heard it numerous times. What are you doing?
We've heard it twice in the epigraphs.
Nope, numerous times. I've heard you say it numerous times.
This is the first time I hear about it. No,
yeah, okay, because you don't listen to the podcast very
long. We've discussed what we think the Everstorm is, right?
Yeah, briefly. You guys weren't really sure because we didn't really get much context. It's just kind of been mentioned by name.
What do you mean? Kind of like Everstorm
it's literally
deepness,
Yeah, it's literally a forever storm. I don't necessarily think those visions are coming from
the Almighty.
Yeah.
No, for sure.
And we don't even know if they could be good or bad yet. So Ruin has made sure of that.
Their visions from ruin.
Or something to that extent. Maybe a different god, but same idea.
What if it's a weird chasm?
Chasm fiend?
You
There
mean
you
chasm?
go.
Hey, you mean chasm darkness?
Yeah, a chasm find.
Gosh. So we go back to Adolin's point of view as he tries to think of how to get sympathy with Janala. He also thinks that maybe Renarin was right, that he should have invited her along to the hunt. The Scout Lord, Taralar, then comes over and says that the Parshendi haven't been spotted. Adolin gives some commands that he thinks are unnecessary, but he knows that his father would want done, and then watches Elhokar and Dalinar get off the rocky tower. Elhokar jumps down recklessly, and Dalinar takes a slightly safer path down. Adolin then goes on to speak to the rear guards, moving past Saeddis' group of Light Eyes as he does so, knowing that they are wearing comfortable outfits. He wants to wear an outfit like that, but instead is wearing a military uniform in his plate, as the Alethi war codes demand, although apparently his father is the only one who abides by the codes. The codes also mean that Adolin can't duel others, even if he wanted to do it to defend his father against people who spoke badly of him. He also thinks about how the princedoms are each basically their own government, who just give a nod towards the king. Due to this, the king doesn't own lands himself, and Dalinar basically lets Elhokar control his lands, which makes him look weak to the other high princes. So what do you think about how Elhokar is like governed and how it's kind of like formed?
I'm like trying to figure out what you just asked, to be honest.
So what do you think about the way?
Like what?
So like Aelin kind of explains that like the Elhokar isn't really like a super unified nation. It's like a bunch of like states.
It's like weak. Like how do you say it? Alliances, I guess.
Yeah, so it's basically like all these little princedoms that kind of follow the king, but also kind of do their own thing.
I don't know. That pisses me off for some reason.
I
feel like it's a bit too flimsy.
Definitely feels weird. I don't know. I mean, hey, our government don't work very well either, so.
That's why you force them into submission.
Yeah, because that's always worked in the past, you know.
Yeah.
So Adolin goes over and gives a report to the king, although it doesn't have much substance, before going off to check with the rear guard. Then he goes to stand with his father and brother, who are looking east towards the origin, where all high storms begin. He places a hand on his brother's shoulder, knowing that he seems at a place with just a side sword that he barely knows how to use. Renarin had a blood weakness that made it difficult for him to spend time practicing with the sword. So what do you think about the fact that Renarin hasn't really been trained in battle, even though like their whole like society is like super war focused?
You know, parents always have their favorites.
Feels like an oversight on their part, to be honest.
I mean, it sounds like they've tried. It's just his like whatever weakness he has makes it difficult for him to fight much.
It just sounds like a fucking excuse, but sure.
Just make him fight verbal battles. Make him roast everyone.
You become the next King's Wit.
Oh my god. Once again, another person that I fucking adored in this.
Wit's great. Wit's like one of the best characters. So Adolin asks his father if they can move more quickly with the hunt to get it over with, as he doesn't find it as exciting as others do. However, Dalinar replies that Elhokar had insisted on the hunt. Adolin then goes on about girls for a bit, to which Dalinar replies it's impossible to keep up with Adolin's courtships. They then go back to talking about the hunt and Elhokar, to which Dalinar...
I'm calling him he's a whore.
he seems to date lots of different girls.
Date? We think that he's dating?
I mean,
I don't know if he's dating any of these women.
He's going out to lunches and stuff with them.
That dude, are there STDs in this world? Cause
probably.
He probably got a couple. You know.
They got crabs.
Oh God.
That's funny. Darkness, that was funny.
They then go back to talking about the hunt and Elhokar, to which Dalinar explains to Adolin that the king needs to prove his courage by going on a hunt like this, as people have been talking about how paranoid he is about the assassins. Adolin finds that this cuts down his complaints, however, he's startled when Dalinar then mentions that he wants to convince Elhokar to leave the Shattered Plains. Dalinar goes on to say that he needs to unite them, and that he thought they were united, fighting on the Shattered Plains, but that he was wrong. The High Princes are only united in name, and they treat the war like a game. He says they need to go back to Elhokar and stabilize their homeland, as the High Princes focus too much on wealth and prestige while here. However, Adolin cuts in, saying that wealth and prestige is what it means to be a Alethi. Adolin also asks what would happen with the Vengeance Pact, and Dalinar says the Vengeance Pact is important, but Gavilar's life work of uniting Elhokar is more important. Adolin insists for Dalinar to not bring this up to the king, and that if Dalinar thinks the High Princes are playing games, then they should just get more serious about the war, not leave. What do you think about Dalinar's view of the Vengeance Pact and how the High Princes have been acting over the last several years?
What was the verses? The verses via?
The what view?
Like the verses, like, you know what I mean? Like,
oh, so Dalinar thinks that they should give up on the Vengeance Pact because like they're not taking it seriously, and that bringing their kingdom together is more important. Whereas Adolin's like, no, if you think that think people aren't taking this seriously enough, we should like fight harder instead of like leaving.
I think what they need to do is just unite them more in general. So
unite them.
Just like murder them if you have to.
Unite them
by force.
Mm-hmm. If possible.
I think Dalinar needs to go all Blackthorn on them, beat them all up.
Yes, 100%. Beat them all up. Kick all the bullets.
Mm-hmm.
So Adolin then leaves to go collect a report, and the group of soldiers all move across to the next plateau. Adolin notes that Dalinar changed when his brother died, as did the relationship between Dalinar and Sadeas, who had once been friends. He thinks that his reason for fighting the Parshendi was for his father to go back to the way he had been in the past. Time wears on, and eventually they get to the hunting area. Dalinar comes over to commend Adolin on his commanding, saying it's good that he's having a chance to practice being in command. As Adolin and Renarin start to move towards the viewing plateau, he sees Wit riding up to the group. Adolin notes that Wit has blue eyes, but he is neither a light eye nor a dark eye, as he is instead the King's Wit, which is a class of its own. Wit states that he's surprised to see Adolin here away from a woman, and Adolin reluctantly tells him that he made plans to have lunch with one woman while courting another, and now neither is talking to him.
Which is hilarious.
God damn it, Adolin.
Like, great guy.
He's such a fucking whore. Jesus Christ.
Adolin thinks that the King's Wit isn't just a court jester, but a tool for the king so that he doesn't need to debase himself by replying to offending comments. Adolin also thinks that Wit is unlike previous Wits, as he seems to know important things that he shouldn't know. So what do you think about Wit, and also the fact that he's considered neither light eye nor dark eye?
Well, he's very witty to me.
That's pretty cool, actually.
What do you think about the fact that he seems to know things that he shouldn't?
He's witnessed a lot, you know?
He's the assassin. I just think everyone's gonna be trying to kill that one dude. It's the conjure all over again.
Wit then begins to tease Renarin, who refuses to speak to him at first, until Wit begins to tell a lie about the two of them meeting up with 3 sisters one night. Which he starts with 2, and then he's like, oh, I'm sorry, Renarin, there was actually 3, Renarin got 2 of them, so I was trying to like downplay it. Renarin's like, the fuck, dude? But Dalinar tells Wit to stop, as he doesn't like when people pick on Renarin. However, Adolin thinks that Wit is always good-natured with Renarin. Wit whispers to Dalinar that Renarin is less fragile than he thinks, before riding off. Adolin notices him going to insult some of the low-ranking Light Men. So what do you think about Wit's comment to Dalinar about Renarin being less fragile than he seems?
Well, I mean, it's probably true, considering that that's the trope for most people in books where, like, I guess they get denied a chance.
What did you think, Mythic?
What do you think about what? Sorry.
About Wit's view on Renarin and him kind of telling Dalinar, like, Renarin's less fragile than you think he is.
Oh, I mean, I agree, but like I agree with Wit, because Wit is very witty. He's got some, nice witdom.
He does. Bashan, a high-ranking Dark Eye, then comes over to Dalinar to let him know that they'd gotten the bait set out for the Chasm Fiend. Adolin thinks that the bows they used to weaken the Chasm Fiend are Fabrials that were made by a team led by his aunt Navani, widow to Gavilar and mother of Elhokar and Yasna. However, she apparently had left the Shattered Plains, and Adolin missed her. Bashan continues on talking about the hunt until he notices that the Chell that had the bait was wandering off. Adolin thinks something is wrong, and Dalinar notices that the bait from the end of the rope is gone. Suddenly, a large, dark creature climbs out of the chasms and onto the viewing platform, where all of the scribes in attendance were, including Dalinar and Adolin. So what do you think about this Chasm Fiend suddenly appearing when it wasn't supposed to, before they were ready?
Well, it was me, so...
I see.
I think somebody, I don't know how, but somebody, called
triggered it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, too! I was like, what if somebody, slip, a little bit of, juicy meat down the, the edge?
So that was the end of chapter 12, and then we get chapter 13, which is called 10 Heartbeats. And we get a new epigraph, which is, I realize that you are probably still angry. That is pleasant to know. Much as your perpetual health, I have come to rely upon your dissatisfaction with me. It is one of the Cosmere's great constants, I should think. So considering this person is writing to someone who is angry with them, what do you think the purpose of this letter might be?
Clearly a love letter.
Clearly.
It's an apology letter.
Apology letter? I see.
Yeah, they're like, I'm sorry.
Please don't be angry with me anymore.
Smash question mark.
Oh god.
Wow. But
Signed erotically.
Darkness just wants to smash everything.
He does.
Mm-hmm.
They used to call me the Hulk.
Oh god.
Mm.
We start this chapter with Dalinar's point of view as he begins to summon his Shardblade, noting that when his heart is racing, it summons quicker since it takes 10 heartbeats exactly. Which
I was saying before.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you guys mentioned that last time was like, oh, if your heart's racing, does it come faster? Which it does! He's confirmed here.
Well, yeah, I mean, when your heart is racing, it does come faster.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So he runs forward as the Chasm Fiend breaks a bridge, causing people to fall down into the chasms below. The Chasm Fiend is a dark violet, and Dalinar thinks the Parshendi consider them gods. Each of its 4 claws was as large as a horse. Elhokar shouts for archers, and Dalinar shouts at him to distract the Chasm Fiend from the unarmed people. The Chasm Fiend eats the Chull and trumpets with 4 different voices. Finally, Dalinar's Shardblade, Oathbringer, formed in his hand out of mist. It was 6 feet long, slightly curved, and had wave-like serrations near the hilt. The tip of it was also curved into that of a fishhook. Dalinar had bonded to it at just 20 years old. He then sees Elhokar's Shardblade, Sunraiser, form in Elhokar's hand. It was a thinner blade with glyphs carved into it. The creature trumpets in its multi-voiced cry again and slams a claw down into a group of soldiers. So what did you think about the Chasm Fiend?
It was cool looking.
Yeah.
It looked like me.
Yeah, it was totally darkness.
Except the only reason it's not me is because it got defeated.
Is that why?
I would never. Also, I definitely think that's one of the smaller ones.
You think there's like ones that are like way bigger?
Hell yeah.
For sure.
It's emo Mr. Krabs.
Emo Mr. Krabs.
You see, this is what you get when you ask like a painter on like during their times to like recreate a portrait of like what happened, and it gets over like exaggerated, I guess.
You don't like the pictures I found of the Chasm Fiend?
I feel like the only reason I'm off about it is because it makes it seem like it's like a god, I guess. When I'm pretty sure there's gonna be bigger ones.
It's apparently 40 feet long.
That's nothing.
There'll be bigger ones for sure.
I can be 40 feet long.
No, okay. You can't.
So Dalinar hears.
You really can't.
Dalinar hears Sadeas call for his grand bow, but thinks it'll be too slow. He also sees Adolin charge past on his white Rashadium named Sureblood. Dalinar's own Rashadium, Gallant, comes up next to him, and Dalinar leaps onto its back. He thinks that jumping in Shardplate like that onto a normal horse would hurt its back, but Rashadium were made of stronger stone than that. Dalinar then calls for Elhokar to wait until he and Adolin had weakened the beast before approaching. Dalinar can see soldiers forming up to try to get the Chasm Fiend away from the unarmed attendants, even though they hadn't fought a 40-foot tall beast before. The creature attacks some of the archers, and Adolin tells Dalinar that he'll take the left side. Dalinar slices at one of the creature's legs with Oathbringer, causing the limb to become useless. He notices Adolin slicing one of the beast's legs as well, leaving it with 12 others. Dalinar and Adolin then switch sides, but Dalinar then hears Elhokar joining the fight. He shouts for Elhokar to focus on the legs, but Elhokar charges straight for the Chasm Fiend's chest. So what did you think about Elhokar running out into battle against Dalinar's advice?
Once again, I don't know, you make the kid seem like, he can do a bunch of shit, and he's overconfident.
Right. Clearly it'll never bite him in the ass, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. So Elhokar dodges one of the creature's claws and tells Dalinar to keep fighting as he distracts it, even though Dalinar thinks he would be a better distraction since Rashadium are faster. Dalinar and Adolin both slice through another leg each, and Dalinar tries to call out for Elhokar to retreat since he thinks it would be better to just let the Chasm Fiend go. However, he sees Elhokar fall off his horse as his saddle breaks. As Elhokar falls to the ground, he drops his Shardblade, causing it to vanish to mist. Dalinar watches as a large claw is raised above Elhokar, and he feels panic as he thinks he won't get there in time. The Sadeas hits the creature with an enormous arrow in the head. Purple blood spurts out, and Dalinar raises his blade in acknowledgement, which Sadeas returns. They weren't friends, but their bond to the king united them. Dalinar shouts for Elhokar to get to safety, which he agrees to and runs off. Dalinar notes that the beast is no longer slowing, instead getting enraged as Sadeas continues to shoot it with arrows. He cuts another leg off the creature, as does Adolin, 7 of the 14 legs now dead. However, he suddenly hears Elhokar shouting at the beast, reforming his Shardblade and stabbing at the creature's chest. The creature shakes Elhokar free, and in doing so, hits Dalinar and Gallant with its tail, causing Dalinar to fall and lose his Shardblade. He distantly hears someone call out to him, and Dalinar glances to see Gallant doesn't seem to have broken any legs, although he is injured, so Dalinar tells Gallant to leave the area. So what do you think about Elhokar's recklessness, almost getting Dalinar injured there?
I mean, it's like we've been saying, you know?
Yeah. He's just... Every time Dalinar's like, hey, you should retreat for now, he's like, nah, I'm gonna help. Let me just charge in here like an idiot.
I'm so good. I've beaten you so many times, you know? So
I would have
obviously I'm better than you.
I would have thrown his ass over the edge. I'm gonna fuck. Send me to jail if you have to. Kill me. But he's going down there.
I feel like that was more of a like, wasn't it like they were gonna their one dying or his father's dying wish was to protect him or some shit?
Yeah, Dalinar's not gonna hurt Elhokar.
So
it's fine. Exactly. He just take 2 dying wishes from him. That's how that works, right?
Yasmin's obviously the more successful child, anyways. So Dalinar is hit again by the Chasm Fiend, but he uses the momentum to get back on his feet. He sees Adolin slice at another leg and sees that Sadeas' arrows are still distracting the creature slightly. However, Renarin then shows up, but Dalinar shouts for him to leave as he is unarmored and unarmed. Dalinar rushes towards Elhokar as Oathbringer reforms in his hand, and he sees Adolin trying to defend the king, but he gets thrown into the air by one of the claws. As he lands, cracks form in his shard plate, leaking white smoke, but he is alive. So what do you think about Renarin now running out to check on his father?
Everyone needs to chill the fuck out. Because these are not solutions.
It's like, Renarin, please.
It's like one after the other.
So the creature hits the stone near Elhokar, causing the man to fall and lose his blade again. Everything except protecting his brother's son disappears from Dalinar's mind. He thinks that he failed Gavilar, laying drunk as his brother fought for his life, but he wouldn't let Gavilar's son and his kingdom fall as well. We move back to Adolin's point of view as he tries to clear his dazed mind. He quickly begins summoning his blade again and sees that the king is down. He fears what would happen if Elhokar dies here, and he begins to stumble forward. Then he sees his father charging at the beast in a way Adolin had never seen anyone move, even in Shardplate. Dalinar leaps beneath the claw and catches it before it hits Elhokar, and Adolin's breath catches as the archers all pause as well. At that moment, Adolin knew he was seeing the Blackthorn, the man he had always wished he could fight beside. So what do you think about Dalinar catching the claw of the Chasm Fiend and Adolin's kind of like apparition?
Fucking man's a badass.
Clearly he's proposing.
Yeah, he
saw the greatness that the beast can, show, and he was like, marry me.
So Adolin then gets back into motion, his shardblade forming in his hand. He cuts through the nearest legs of the beast, and the remaining legs are crushed under the weight of the beast. Dalinar nods in thanks to Adolin, and Elhokar gets up and rams his shardblade into the monster's neck, killing it, and then into its chest to slice into its carapace. Since the creature was dead, the blade actually cuts the flesh, causing violet blood to spurt out onto the ground. Elhokar then reaches into the chest of the Chasm Fiend and pulls out its gem heart, an emerald as big as a man's head, and glories run pop up around him. So what do you think about these giant gem hearts inside these Chasm Fiends?
I mean, I feel like you could use those with your power or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of cool.
It reminds me of the one from the Sand.
Oh, the big creature from White Sand?
Yeah.
The sandling, the deep sandling?
Yeah, and I was thinking, how they said that thing had another one?
Well, it had a little glass red sphere.
Yeah, but they said they didn't know where it came from.
Yeah, well, they had thought that it was probably got stuck in the creature during a previous attempt at that challenge. Because it wasn't actually inside it was just wedged between two pieces of its carapace.
Okay, well, I was thinking for this world, what if these creatures are only like this because they're affected by the investitures or whatever? Because the other one, it seems like they have resistance towards what they can do.
Mm-hmm.
In this one, it's it forms a whole reward inside of them,
Yeah, well, we know that gemstones are quite important. They hold this stormlight, which we don't really know too much about, but it's light that basically infuses in gemstones and comes through the high storm.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, I feel like there's definitely bigger ones. There's definitely gonna be even bigger stones, and they're probably gonna have a big play on what they need to do with them.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool that he seemed to like have a level field with it regardless.
Mm-hmm.
And also that armor is strong.
Yeah, shard plate is very strong.
Yeah.
So then we move on to chapter 14, Payday. And the epigraph is, "Let me first assure you that the element is quite safe. I have found a good home for it. I protect its safety like I protect my own skin, you might say." So what sort of thing do you think this element might be that this person is keeping safe?
Repeat it.
What
It says,
element is it keeping safe?
yeah, so the epigraph is, "Let me first assure you that the element is quite safe. I have found a good home for it. I protect its safety like I protect my own skin, you might say."
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
what if it's like so you know what I mean? Like what if it's less of like an actual object and more like an element itself? Like so?
You think it might be like a spren or something?
Yeah.
Mm.
I don't even think she's a spren anymore, so
You don't think she's a spren? Damn. She's something
nah, she's
completely different.
definitely something more.
Yeah, she's definitely something different. She's not just a friend, for sure.
And I don't want to believe that it's just her. So
Mm-hmm.
You think there's got to be others that are like different like her?
I'm sorry, did you say different flavored?
I said different like her.
Oh.
Different flavored, yes. There are
Yeah,
definitely different flavors.
she's a different flavor than the other spren, Darkness.
It's
Yeah, for
clearly
sure.
mint flavored.
Yeah, she's obviously mint. All the other spren are chocolate.
Why do they all have to be chocolate?
I don't know. I like chocolate.
Of
Yeah, we all
course.
know. We all know.
So we switch to Calvin's point of view as he wakes up before the others and strides through the room of blanketed lumps, feeling determined and resolute. He throws open the door, letting in sunlight and waking up the other bridgemen. Kaladin shouts for the men to get up and go outside and form ranks. However, the men ignore him. Syl lands on his shoulder, watching. Kaladin decides to drag one of the men out of bed as an example, choosing a stronger-looking Alethi man named Moash. Kaladin grabs Moash by the arm, pulling him up and out of bed. Moash curses at him and pulls his arm away. However, Kaladin punches him in the gut to wind him, and then hoists him over his shoulder and carries him outside, placing him on the stone ground. He then turns to the rest of the bridgemen and says he'll do the same to the rest of them. However, the other men come outside on their own after seeing Kaladin manhandle Moash. So what did you think of Kaladin's attempt of getting the bridgemen up early?
I was laughing my ass off. Ain't nobody gonna listen to you, bro.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, this isn't gonna go the way he wants, but I see where he's trying to get to, and I feel like it'll happen eventually. Something big is gonna happen where like they start respecting him a lot more.
He's
Well,
like, you just
after
like
he did,
punch
you know,
Moash and throw him over my shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
that's something I would definitely do. I'm pretty sure I've done that actually.
You punch someone in the stomach and throw them over your shoulder.
I don't think I had to punch them. I just had to throw them over my shoulder.
So Kaladin tells the group that things are going to change in Bridge 4. They're no longer going to sleep in. A man named Sigzil, who seems to be Makabaki, asks what they'll do instead, and Kaladin replies that they will train by running a bridge and practice to build endurance. Leighton calls out an agreement when Kaladin says he knows the others think they should rest, since their lives are hard enough. However, Kaladin then states that bridge runs are hard because they laze around, when they aren't doing bridge runs. He then states that he wants to keep Bridge 4 from losing any more men. A large man with red hair, who seems to be an Unkalaki, or also called a horn eater, laughs loudly. Last night he gave his name as Rock. Rock calls Kaladin crazy, and Moash asks Gaz if they have to listen to Kaladin, but Gaz replies that they only have to listen to him on the field. This causes the bridgemen to disperse, and still to mention that it doesn't seem like that went very well. Kaladin replies that he's frustrated, as when he was a squad leader in Amaranth's army, he could punish people, but being a bridgeman was the lowest you could get, so there was no fear of consequence for not listening. So what did you think about the few bridgemen that spoke out? So like there's Moash, Sigil, Rock, Leighton briefly mentioned.
They pissed me the fuck off.
I mean, it makes sense. Like they're not. I don't know. They've probably been doing this a little bit longer than Kaladin.
No, he says that he's the last one left alive from when he started.
Yeah,
He's
was
been there
gonna
the
say,
longest.
So these
Aren't
are
they
new
like
people.
fresh meat?
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
I hope they go into like one of those runs and then they actually survive and they're like, why the fuck did we not listen to him?
I think he
Or they
says
don't
that,
survive, and then he goes, "What the fuck? Y'all need to listen to me so you can survive."
I think he mentions that in the end of the last chapter we have with Kaladin that Teft, besides Kaladin, has been around one of the longest because he's been there a couple weeks. But outside of Teft, I think most of them are fairly new, like a week or two at most, because they die that quickly.
don't die, they retire. We gotta put it mildly.
Uh-huh. So Kaladin begins heading over to Gaz, but the man looks at him fearfully and hurries away. Kaladin asks Sail to follow him, and she turns into a line of light and goes after him, returning a minute later, and once again becoming a girl, and telling Kaladin where Gaz is hiding. Kaladin goes the long way around and surprises Gaz, saying that he isn't here about what Gaz has said to Moash, but for his pay, as it's payday. Gaz hands Kaladin 4 spheres, but Kaladin insists on the 5th one before giving it back to him, saying to remember that Kaladin is giving him the sphere, and that he doesn't just get to keep it. He then tells Gaz to remember their bargain and to stay out of his way. What do you think about Kaladin, forcing Gaz to give him his full pay before giving him the bribe money?
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was very smart of the way he did it.
Good play.
He was like, "This is you need to remember that I'm the one giving you this money, not you. It's not you just getting to take it."
Yeah, he doesn't want him to kind of get complacent and forget. He's like, no, I'm giving you money.
Yeah.
So Kaladin asks what their schedule is for today, which is afternoon bridge duty if there is a bridge run, and that they are to clean up after evening meal. Kaladin thinks that leaves the morning free, and that the bridgemen will likely spend their spheres on gambling or on whores. As Kaladin leaves, Gaz calls out to him that he isn't in charge, he's just a bridgeman. However, Kaladin tells Syl that authority doesn't come from rank, but from the men that give it to you. Next, Kaladin asks Syl to watch over him at night in case Gaz comes for him, since Syl doesn't sleep. He doesn't actually think Gaz will try to murder him, but he thinks it's better to be safe than sorry. Kaladin then wanders over to the lumberyard, thinking he needs to find a way to motivate the bridgemen other than with punishment. He asks a man working in the lumberyard if he can borrow a plank of wood, which the man seems confused by but doesn't object. Kaladin then begins practicing running and jogging with the plank, both on his shoulder and lifted high in the air. As Kaladin runs, he draws a crowd, mostly workers and other bridgemen, but a few of the bridgemen are also from Bridge 4, such as Teft and Dunny, who is a younger man. He keeps going because of the people watching, but also to work out his anger at himself and the Almighty. Once the afternoon bell sounds, Kaladin drops the plank and goes to take some water from a barrel that normally bridgemen aren't allowed to drink from, but the carpenters don't protest. When he goes back over to the plank, he sees Rock and Teft checking out the plank, as Rock had apparently bet them that Kaladin had used a lightweight board to try to impress them. So what do you think about Kaladin practicing running with this plank?
It's smart. It's smart to practice, and get better at it so that you can, survive for sure. I liked it better that somebody was like, "Oh no, he got a really light plank." I was like, that wouldn't. I feel like that wouldn't be true.
Yeah, Rock's like, no way, he's just trying to impress us. And he's like, oh shit, it was actually a proper board. I guess I'm paying out my money that I just got paid.
Yeah, I totally wasn't just thinking a totally different set of thoughts of I would totally just watch it happen.
So Kaladin takes the plank from Rock to return it to the carpenters, giving the workers a wave of thanks, and then tells the bridgemen that they are dismissed for lunch and that they are on wait for afternoon shift, and then cleaning up after evening meal. He tells them that the last man to show up to work that evening was doing the pots. He then leaves the group, going into an alleyway and basically collapsing from exhaustion. As he sits on the ground, Syl touches him and says that she is glad he kept his word to Gaz, even if Gaz is a disgusting person. She says she thought he wouldn't keep his word and that about the spheres, but is glad he did, as that is important. She then says she has recently learned what a lie is, and is glad that he didn't lie. Syl says that she is changing and learning new things, and also notes that she has realized she was going to try that Kaladin was going to try and kill himself at the chasm last night, and that she had given him a poisonous leaf. She wonders why she knows what death is now. So what do you think about Syl's reaction to him keeping his promise to Gaz?
I love Syl. She's awesome.
What do you think about her saying it's important that he kept his word and didn't lie?
Maybe he's destined to become something greater, and if he strays off the path is not gonna happen,
Or maybe Syl's somehow gonna kill him because he lied. Well, she can affect him.
But also, do you think about Syl realizing that she gave Kaladin a poisonous leaf?
Clearly, she was happy about it.
Because he didn't do what she thought he would. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say because she's bloodthirsty, but
okay. So Syl seems concerned that she no longer knows what she is, but Kaladin says it doesn't matter as he isn't sure what he is either. She asks if he is mad at her for bringing the leaf, but he says that somehow it was the right thing and it kept him from stepping off into the chasm. Syl then blames Kaladin for the changes in her, and Kaladin says both he and the Night Watcher bring death and lies, which is sarcasm, which Syl seems to understand. And he's a little worried that she seems to understand sarcasm. He's like, oh, that's not gonna go well. She also finds it strange that she can remember things now, as Friend don't usually have long memories, and Kaladin wonders if she goes through a cycle of getting memories and then forgetting, which scares Syl. Kaladin just says he knows how she feels. So first of all, who or what do you think this Night Watcher is?
Batman.
Also, I'm going to just so you're aware, Night Watcher is capitalized, and it's also one word. Night Watcher.
Yeah, it's probably because it's somebody's like epithet. I'm sure. Batman. Yeah, I like Batman. That's a good idea. It's totally Batman.
Also, what do you think about these changes that are happening with Syl?
She's going through puberty.
The chosen. She's the chosen one.
What did you say, Douglas?
Okay, she got a lightning bolt on her forehead.
She's her chosen one, but yeah.
I said she's going through puberty. Like,
oh, I see.
And I said it in a joking manner, but it kind of makes sense that she is in a way if she's evolving, into something better.
I see. And then we are on to our final chapter, chapter 15, The Decoy.
Fucking finally.
It says,
I mean, we'll be here for another hour, but still.
Right.
The epigraph says, "You do not agree with my quest. I understand that. So much as it is possible to understand someone with whom I disagree so completely." So after reading a few of these epigraphs, who do you think, like, maybe not like the exact person, but like, who sort of do you expect to be like a writer and the receiver of this letter? Like, what sort of people?
Ragnar the Terrible.
It's Ragnar, the writer or the receiver of the letter?
He's the writer.
I see.
Because
Oh, wow, okay.
He's terrible at writing.
Wait, can you repeat the epigraph again?
You do not agree with my quest. I understand that, so much as it is possible to understand someone with whom I disagree so completely.
Look at the kid. I swear. Kid's gonna be the one writing.
Which kid?
The guy who thinks a lot more highly of himself.
The king?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right, Kenny?
He, as far as we know, he can't write.
But... Yeah, right. As far as we know.
No, I mean, no one but Gavilar can write, which he can't, but they don't know that.
I think it would be more interesting if it's the other one, the young. Is it the younger brother?
Renarin, Adolin's little brother.
There you go, him. Yeah.
He does apparently wear glasses, and we all know that if you wear glasses, you're obviously smart.
You can read and write. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's totally how this all.
That's definitely how that works.
Yeah, for sure.
Except if your name is Midnight.
What do you mean?
It's not working.
Because we all know Midnight does not get smarter with her glasses.
Years to do.
Actually, she's probably got like that Clark Kent disease, where she pulls it off. She's all of a sudden some new person.
Oh my gosh. So we go back to Adolin's point of view 4 hours after the Chasm Fiend attack. They were still doing cleanup, and some men had gone to get a bridge crew to replace the bridge that had been destroyed by the Chasm Fiend. He's collecting reports and sees some men cutting off pieces of carapace from the corpse. In another area, surgeons of Dalinar's were attending to the wounds of the people who got injured during the attack. He noticed that Dalinar had decided to stay and rest the wounded instead of trying to go the long way around through the other plateaus to get back. Adolin then notices some heating fabrials that use gemstones to create heat instead of fire. The other Light Eyes were chatting and relaxing near the heating fabrials while Adolin worked, but he didn't envy them for once, as he didn't think he could rest after the disaster of the hunt. A man comes over and brings Adolin a list of casualties, the man's wife reading it out to him. Nearly 50 men were dead, and about twice as much were wounded. He glances over at his father to see him looking eastward. There had been no more whispers of Dalinar's weakness since the battle with the Chasm Fiend, although Adolin didn't think that would last. Adolin then goes to give the report of casualties to the king, thinking he may also be able to listen in on Sadeas while over there. So what do you think about the fact that most of these Light Eyes just seem to be chilling and chatting after so many men have been killed and wounded in this fight?
And after you've seen it enough times, I feel like
it
wouldn't affect you.
But also, like, I feel like Light Eyes in general get that, like, sort of noble atmosphere. And it's, like, very dismissive no matter what world you're from. So it's like, I'm slightly better than you, so I'm not really going to care about others.
So we switch to Dalinar's point of view as he faces eastward, thinking that the Pershendi camp was somewhere out there in the center of the plains. They'd been besieging the Pershendi for 6 years now, which had been a plan Dalinar had suggested, since trying to attack their base camp would mean camping out on the plateaus. They had expected the Pershendi to run out of supplies, but they hadn't been expecting the gem hearts of the Chasm Fiends. Dalinar glances at Adolin, noting his hair had blonde mixed in with black, which was inherited from his mother. He then thinks that he can't remember his wife. All memories of her are foggy, and he is unable to remember her name, even when it is spoken to him directly. So what do you think about this fact that Dalinar has absolutely zero memories of his wife and, like, can't even hear her name?
It's almost as if magic is afoot.
It's not like we've ever had a shard, erase a specific part of a, you know, prophecy or, change someone's, thoughts in general.
Also, do you
That's
think
crazy.
his two sons know that he cannot remember anything about his wife, their mom?
No,
You think he's kept
or
it
Probably
too
secret
not.
from
focused
them?
on his visions.
Would you say,
He's
Mythic?
probably not. He's probably not telling them. So
So Dalinar watches as Adolin wanders over to the carcass of the chasm fiend, and he notes that he always feels some melancholy after killing such a magnificent beast. He notes that getting gem hearts is usually different from the hunt today, as they often go after them when they are in a rocky chrysalis. He also notices that some barely visible spren are disappearing around the body of the dead chasm fiend, the spren that no one knew the nature of and that only appeared around the dead great shells. He also thinks that the Parshendi seem to want the gem hearts as much as the Alethi do, which is why it is worth fighting over them. Dalinar notes that evening is coming, and he sees lights twinkle from watchtowers. Scouts would watch for pupating chasm fiends, and if they noticed one, there would be a race between the Parshendi and the Alethi for the gem heart. If they both got to a plateau, they would fight. A gem heart could be used for soul casting and would cover the expense of feeding a High Prince's army for a month. Larger gemstones were also less likely to shatter when being used for soul casting. The Alethi also raced to get to these gem hearts for the right to fight the Parshendi and to get the gem heart to feed their army. This was because only the finest warriors got to join the heralds after death in the fight against the Voidbringers to retake the Tranquiline Halls. So why do you think the Parshendi are also focused on the gem hearts? Because we know why the Alethi are, but why do you think the Parshendi want them?
As offering for their gods, obviously.
I mean, the Alethi seem to think that they consider the chasm fiends like their gods, like so that like they think that they are their gods.
I mean, they could just want the thing, right? Inside it.
Mm-hmm. Do you think they also have soul casters then, or do you
I
think they have
think
like other
it's
uses?
different.
Mm.
I think it's different.
What do you think, Mythic?
I don't know. I feel like they do have soul casters.
Do you think they also have soul casters, so that's how they're also like surviving so long?
What do you mean? The soul casters are clearly made for battle.
They said they can make food with them.
Yeah,
No,
so
what they're
that
gonna.
was my favorite part when he was like, we have soul casters, right? Like the king is giving us soul casters. Why are you not using that?
Like, you just throw food at your enemies.
Oh my god.
Throw a really delicious looking piece of food and maybe they'll get distracted.
So Dalinar is troubled by how long the siege against the Parshendi is taking, and how much longer it could take. He thinks that the Parshendi have moved to the Shattered Plains because of the tactical advantage, and brought lots of supplies since they had expected to be besieged. In the beginning, Elhokar had sent letters demanding the reason for the murder of his father, but although the Parshendi had taken credit for the murder, they had not explained why they had done it. So why do you think the Parshendi haven't said why they killed Gavilar?
Did they?
So they haven't said it. No one knows why the Parshendi decided to assassinate Gavilar.
No, but did they?
Yeah, we got confirmation in the prologue that Zeth was sent by the Parshendi, and they've also said the Parshendi have like owned up to the fact that it was them that did it.
Okay. Maybe they think like me and they're like, it's time for, you know, a group project.
The group project.
They're preparing for the Forever Storm.
Mm.
Yeah, the Forever
That-
Storm for sure.
That's all. That's good. That's what I'm gonna call it because I like that name
Yeah,
better.
it's great. It's a great name, honestly. I think I'm gonna call it that same thing now. The Forever Storm.
So Dalinar then worries that a high storm might come tonight, which also makes him think of his visions.
No, Forever Storm.
No, he's thinking of a high storm, not the Everstorm. He sees Sadeas give him a nod before heading into the pavilion where the king was, and Dalinar follows in a moment later. He sees Adolin and Renarin also inside and thinks that Adolin is likely trying to listen in on Sadeas' conversations again, as he seems to have a rivalry with the man. Elhokar then mentions that Sadeas had won 3 gem hearts recently, and asks how many Dalinar has won, which is 0. Elhokar then praises Sadeas' bridges as more efficient. Dalinar says he's been doing other important things, but Sadeas asks if it's more important than the war and the Vengeance Pact. Dalinar gives Sadeas a look in response, and then Elhokar again praises Sadeas' bridges, but Dalinar replies that they waste many lives, even if they are faster. He also states that by the codes, a man should not make another man do something he wouldn't be willing to do himself. He also is upset that Sadeas doesn't let the bridgemen have armor or shields. Sadeas, however, counters that if he armors the bridgemen, the Parshendi will just ignore them and fire at the army instead. It's better to give them nothing and just use extra bridges. He seems amused by the fact that the Parshendi seem to think that he views the bridgemen as important enough to care that they die. This causes Dalinar to frown and think back on the final message from his brother, that he needs to find the most important words a man can say. This sentence was a quote from a book called The Way of Kings, and it would be against what Sadeas was
Oh
preaching.
man, title.
Yeah, so apparently the title of this book is also a book in world.
Which is weird, but sure.
So what do you think about Sadius's reason for using the Bridgemen?
Have you guys read The Way of Kings and The Way of Kings?
I mean, it's just funny because that book is literally because it has that name, it makes it so much more important to the story, integral.
Right.
Like or
You
at
know
least
it's
it makes you
important.
feel like it needs. Yeah, it makes it feel like it's a very important thing all of a sudden.
It's
You
like
know,
like not even that important.
yeah. Why? Like that'd be hilarious.
It's actually
What
just
it
like
is?
a red herring. It's like a
Yeah,
distraction.
exactly. He didn't want
I would
us to
cry
know the truth.
because I'm already like memorizing the whole book.
Yeah, are you?
Yeah, I remember there's a "the" somewhere in there.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so what did you think about Sadius's reasons for using the Bridgemen? Like him being like, oh yeah, if we armor them, they're just gonna attack the army, so I'd rather just let them like kill the Bridgemen because I think they're important.
Honestly,
Well,
I thought
he's,
the uh like explanation of like it weighs them down was a better reasoning than what you just said. Honestly, like
Yeah, he kind of said both. He's
they
like they'll
need
be
to move.
slower,
They
but
need to move
also
fast. Yeah, they need to
yeah.
move fast with the bridge. Like, but also yes, okay, people are gonna shoot at them more than your soldiers because your soldiers are armored. Makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. But
Were you gonna say
what,
something, Darkness?
what was the arguments between the two again? Like
Uh,
I know what they're arguing about, but like, what was their
yeah. So
points?
Dalinar doesn't like like how many men die on the bridge cruise, and Sadius is like, yeah, but if I armor them, then they're gonna be slower, and also the Parshendi. When I've done that before, the Parshendi then just like shoot at my army, and I'd rather the Bridgemen die than my army die because the Bridgemen are more
which
easily
is
replaceable.
crazy. Yeah.
Well,
That might be
it's
changing
also
real soon.
it's also not wrong and not inefficient.
It's really not though. That's the thing. Like, I mean, it's terrible because they're human beings, but
hmm
Yeah,
like it makes sense. Like,
yeah.
if these human beings are expendable, of course it's use them.
hmm
Like, why would you use the people who are less expendable to pull bridges? Like, especially since apparently that's what you need to do. Like, you can't find another way to do it.
I would
hmm
make Midnight my bridge leader.
Oh my gosh. But also, what do you think
Nah.
about the fact that Elhokar is like praising the use of Bridgemen, whereas Dalinar is like, I will never use Bridgemen. That's horrible to me.
I mean, how do you
I,
get across the gaps then, buddy?
Well, he uses apparently wheeled bridges, which take a lot longer to get to the
Uh,
plateaus.
but who's wheeling your bridges?
Well, I'm assuming what he probably does is he has people with shields and armor, so they take a lot longer, but like he has less casualties.
And I mean,
okay, but
wait,
those are like
who was
actual
the
soldiers,
who
right?
was
Yeah.
yeah, but who was the person that they were saying like, what have you done recently? Is that
Yeah, so
him
he
or is
hasn't
it
won
the
any
other guy?
Dreadhearts recently, so we don't know if he's just going out on less plateau runs or if it
I
because
don't
he's
think
so
it's
slow, the Proshendi are gonna
Yeah,
be
I don't think
first.
it's less. I think it's just he's too slow
He's too
He's
slow.
because he
he's
cares
trying to
more
be
about
too
like
efficient. Yeah,
what's happening.
hmm
yeah, he's trying to be too efficient.
So
And I
Sadius.
mean,
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, but like, oh shit, my whole keyboard just died.
Oh.
Oh,
Anyway, I was gonna say, like, even so, they're chasing that sense of like, oh, what did he do? What did he do? Like, you haven't done shit. But like, does that really matter in war? Like,
hmm
when you're trying to fight for trophies rather than for the actual victory, which is like survival.
right.
hmm
I don't know, it's weird.
Definitely weird. You're not wrong, but I mean, it's a conundrum that luckily we do not have to worry about.
hmm
Oh,
I mean, we don't.
I guess technically, yeah.
We as us three people
As
here
yeah.
do not have to worry about it. There are people in
unless
this
unless
reality who still have to worry about that. Yes.
Yeah.
we can always form, a
No.
little secret foundation. Okay.
Secret Foundation. Wait,
uh.
what? I want to hear more about this. Darkness, go on. Secret
No, I
Foundation.
got denied.
Oh,
I will never forgive you for this midnight.
I'm
We could have been
sorry.
something great.
No, I don't trust you. You were gonna make me a bridgeman.
I mean, fair.
No, I was gonna make you a bridge leader.
Yeah, I was still gonna die that way.
Still a Bridgman. Like, what?
So Sadia says that the cost is worth the reward, but Dalinar disagrees, which causes everyone to look at him in shock as it's very Alethi of him. Sadeas accuses Dalinar of failing in this contest of war, which causes Adolin to speak up, defending his father, but Dalinar stops him before he insults Sadeas. Adolin looks as if he's about to summon his Shardblade, but Renarin puts a hand on his shoulder, causing Adolin to back off. Sadeas insults Dalinar's children, to which Dalinar replies that he is proud of both his sons. Adolin tries to speak up when Sadeas calls Renarin incompetent, but Dalinar says he will handle it. Dalinar then turns to Sadeas and states that surely he didn't insult his son, which would cause Dalinar to summon his blade and demand Sadeas' blood, which would shatter the Vengeance Pact as the king's two greatest allies would be fighting. Sadeas meets Dalinar's eyes and says that he must have misheard him, because he would not have insulted Dalinar's son, as it would be unwise.
I must have misheard you, right? Soft threat.
Yeah, so what did you think about Dalinar's defense of Renarin?
I love it. I love the soft threats. They're so fun.
He's like, surely you didn't just insult my son, causing me to have to, fight you, right? Because it would destroy everything here. So surely you weren't stupid enough to do that.
Fucking insulting right there. Damn.
What did you think, Darkness?
Oh, bro, I was so, that's the only part I was, actually really invested into because it was drama. So... It gave me the hold your tongue, boy vibes.
Yeah, he was like, you wouldn't do that, would you? Don't be stupid, Sadeas.
You point your thumb at me?
Elhokar then breaks...
my thumb at you, sir.
Elhokar then breaks the awkward silence, and Sadeas puts in another jab about Dalinar failing to meet expectations, but Elhokar reprimands Sadeas this time. Wit then arrives, holding a cup of wine, and saying that even a single word from Sadeas is quite enough for anyone. Elhokar asks how long Wit has been here, which is hours, and where he has been, which just says he's been around. Wit then says...
I've been around. I'm invisible to everybody else except, myself.
Wit then says it is unfortunate to see Sadeas here, as he is too easy of a target, and that Sadeas' sheer stupidity makes Wit look incompetent. Sadeas asks Elhokar if he really needed Wit around, but Elhokar replies that he likes Wit. Wit then makes a joke about Sadeas paying for whores, and that his place is to make insults, and Sadeas' place is to be in sluts.
Also, that part right there, stupid. I hated it.
Great fucking line.
No, I hated it. That was such a dumb fucking line.
I loved it.
I loved it. It
was
is
great.
So funny.
Love Wit.
Wit is definitely up there, for sure. Not as good as Syl, but definitely.
He's a top tier character.
Yeah, definitely up there.
I like him in general, but that line was so fucking dumb.
I liked it. Wit then
that's just literally calling. It literally called him a slut. No, essentially.
I mean, he is though.
Okay, but you don't just insult someone for insulting them. You make it funny.
It was rather funny.
He was making a pun on
funny.
Insults and sluts.
No, that's not good. It's like a dad joke.
That's the what? That's why it's funny.
But it's not. It's not funny.
Anyways, Wit then tells Sadeas to say something that isn't foolish, to which Sadeas replies that he thinks
this is my favorite line
should be simple.
Ever.
But Wit replies that he failed because the thought of Sadeas thinking is ridiculous.
Oh god, I've already written this line, totally using this in our... Oh my god.
Wit then turns to Renarin and asks if he can say nothing ridiculous, to which Renarin just replies, nothing ridiculous.
Nothing ridiculous. I love it.
Wit laughs and says if he ever loses his job, that Renarin is clever enough to take his place, which makes Renarin happy. So yeah, what did you think of the overall interaction between Wit and Sadeas? We know Darkness's thoughts.
Oh,
no, I liked it. It's just that one line was stupid.
Just the one insult.
Yeah.
It's always fun to see Sadeas put in his place.
What about the other insult, though? The other insult right after was even funnier, in my opinion.
The thought of you thinking is ridiculous.
Yeah. I was like, God, I gotta use that line on somebody. Oh, God. Could you even go 1 hour without being ridiculous? I think I can. Well, obviously you just failed, so...
Sadeas reaches for his sword, and Wit asks if he'll get rid of them both, to which Dalinar thinks that killing a king's wit isn't illegal, but it will cause Sadeas to forfeit his lands and title. Sadeas takes his hand off his sword and leaves. Elhokar sighs and says he'll go after him. However, before he leaves, he asks Dalinar to look into something, which Aelin asks Dalinar about, but Dalinar says he'll tell him in a bit. Aelin again mentions liking Wit, and Dalinar says he could be persuaded to agree. He then asks Renarin to go get a report on the wounded, and tells Adolin to follow him. We move back to Adolin's point of view as he looks over the broken strap from Elhokar's saddle. Dalinar asks what Aelin thinks, and he replies that the strap doesn't look worn, but for it to snap, it must have been. Adolin then correctly guesses that the king thinks the strap was cut. Adolin worries about how increasingly...
I agree with the king.
Adolin worries about how increasingly paranoid Elhokar has become. And Dalinar replies that if the king is worried, then they should look into it. He also notes that the strap had a cleaner break on one side than the other, which means it could have been partially cut so that it would easily snap under pressure. Dalinar states that if it was an assassination attempt, it happened on their watch as their grooms had been looking after Elhokar's horse and saddle. So, do you think Elhokar's saddle strap was cut on purpose?
Yes, 100%.
And it was me who did it.
Yeah, no. Plot twist, it was wit.
That's a possibility. And I was actually thinking about it. And I don't see why it couldn't be a possibility.
No, because he was like, where have you been? He was like, I've been around. I'm like, bah, it was wit.
It could be.
Elon lets out a burst of anger for a moment, complaining that they worry too much about things like this instead of the plateau assaults. Dalinar then gets back on track with the strap and notes that it does seem cut and that it might have been a part of a bigger plan that didn't happen properly. Adolin asks if one of the other High Princes may have done it, but Dalinar doesn't seem to think so. Dalinar then gives Adolin a list of people to look into, as well as asking him to look into the history of the saddle. Adolin then tries to bring up Sadeas potentially being behind the attempt, but Dalinar insists that Sadeas is one of the few people he would trust the king with. He then leads Adolin over to High Prince Vama and has some small talk about the small gem hearts Vama has won, before reminding Vama about needing to use the king's soul casters to help with his wall fortifications. He then leaves and speaks to Sadeas, who apparently owns the only large forest in the area, about how Sadeas is doubling the price of wood to Vama to force him to rely on the soul casters more, and thus to rely on the king more. Dalinar then brings up how worried Elhokar is about assassins, and Sadeas states that he believes the worries partially come from how much Dalinar coddles him with all the soldiers and guards. Dalinar says that it's to do with the codes, but Sadeas replies that the codes are foolish. Dalinar replies that Gavilar believed in them, but that doesn't sway Sadeas. Sadeas then asks about Gavilar's final written words, and when Dalinar says he has not figured it out, Sadeas tells him he won't ever figure it out, and that he's putting himself under too much stress. So what do you think of Dalinar's conversation with Vama and then his conversation with Sadeas?
I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember any of this, because this chapter was long as hell. What was the conversation?
So
the way I'm going back just to check it.
So basically,
Right?
it was
I
like
wish I could,
basically Dalinar and Sadeas seem to be working together to try and get the other High Princes to like rely on Elhokar as much as possible to keep them as like a united kingdom.
Right. Yeah, no, that's like such a flimsy like thing to do anyways, so
Yeah, but I mean, you definitely need a kingdom that is united, especially if you
exactly.
have
So I'm telling you, force them, but they,
I mean, that's how you get mutinies and fucking coups. But
that's
sure.
why you just slaughter them all then.
Yeah, that totally worked out for the Lord Ruler, huh?
Well, technically it did for 1,000 years.
Yeah, and then after those 1,000 years, somebody rose up and actually defeated him. So.
But if it works out for 1,000 years, it's kind of worth it. It's like 10 times your lifespan.
I mean, well, the thing is though, right? If that works out for that long, sure, but at some point you want it to continuously work out, like for the long haul, like.
But it's not, because
long.
nothing ever is gonna work out that long.
Well, I mean, but that's what you search for, though. You
Yeah.
try things that other people haven't done, so that you can get eventually to that point where you'll be in a utopia. We'll put it that way.
I don't ever believe that's possible, but
that's some pessimists in you, but it's okay.
It's more like being realistic, but
no, that's the pessimist in you for sure.
No.
So Dalinar then takes Adolin away from the pavilion and tells him that his brother's final words to him were to follow the codes. Dalinar hadn't, and he'd ended up unconscious and drunk while Gavilar had been murdered. Dalinar then also mentions how Sadeas had been the decoy on the night of Gavilar's death. He had been the one to pretend to be the king and had put himself in grave danger, even though it had ended up failing. On the night, he and Sadeas had made a vow to protect Gavilar's son. Sadeas thought that killing the Proshendi was the best way to keep Elhokar safe, and Dalinar thought that making sure Elhokar had a strong kingdom and allies was the best way to protect him, which is why
I think both of them are right. I mean, was it okay? So this made me think about something though. When Zeth went and killed him, right? Didn't he have orders to like frame somebody, some group or something?
No, he was told to be seen.
To be seen. Okay,
yeah.
It was. I thought it was like he had to he had to put something in there like evidence to frame another group or person
No.
or something.
No,
Okay.
they wanted it known.
You see, but that's what I don't even believe that like the orders actually came from where they say they came from. Because like it's such an like obvious move, and I feel
Yeah,
like
yeah. I feel like
it's
they were
all
framing.
fabricated.
Yeah, I feel like they framed the Persendi or whatever the fuck.
Yeah. Well, I mean, based on the fact that we had Zeth's perspective, I'm assuming he spoke to at least one Parshendi. So maybe there's like different factions within the Parshendi, and one
No,
is like,
but I'm saying like it could have just like been I guess of different factions, but like it could have been a person who not necessarily was on the Prashandi side, but like like wanted to frame them regardless,
Yeah,
so
like
they
in
took on the
Warbreaker.
role of it.
Yeah, like in Warbreaker with the group, that was subservient to them.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, well, and then they really weren't.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible. It's just as far as we know, based on Zeth's perspective and how the Parshendi have
I think
reacted based
she's
on the
just
Electric
trying to
perspective.
lead us away, Darkness.
Right, because
I'm just
as
saying,
far
based
as
on the
we
evidence we
knew,
have.
Yeah, you said that last time too.
no,
And,
because
you were trying to lead us away from it.
right, as far as we knew, the people from Warbreaker could actually not die because they were gods or whatever. But that's as far as we knew at that point.
So what did you guys think though about the fact that Sadeas was like pretending to be Gavilar and like put himself in harm's way when the king was getting assassinated?
Who's that to them?
Who's Thaddeus?
Yeah,
So Sadeas is
Thaddeus
one of
or
like the
whatever.
main high princes. So he's like on the same level as Dalinar, and he was apparently like in the past close friends with both Dalinar and the previous king. Like I think they're all kind
How
of
old
like
is
around
he?
the same age and grew up together.
Oh, is he single? No.
We don't know. What
I
implies
was
that he goes and sees some
joking.
whores.
Yeah, so single enough, hopefully.
Oh no. There's like no women on these camps, right?
No, there are, because all the people who read and write
Right,
are
you're
women.
right.
I mean, who's he whoring with if there's no women here?
He could just like get Amazon delivery packages, right?
Amazon delivery? What?
Amazon. I mean, hey, that would bring Amazonians to a whole new level. Like, they can just deliver themselves.
If Amazonians were there, they wouldn't even need to have the war because they would lose instantly.
Oh my gosh.
Death by snoo.
Oh my god. Dalinar then asks Adolin to respect the fact that Sadeas is trying to protect Elhokar, and Adolin agrees but says he still does not trust him. He also asks Dalinar to at least consider that Sadeas is playing him, and Dalinar also agrees. Adolin then asks about the words Sadeas mentioned, to which Dalinar replies it's a secret that only he, Sadeas, Yasna, and Elhokar know of. Gavilar had written down a quote from The Way of Kings, although he had never told anyone he could write. And just a small note, we know that he actually didn't write it. We know that Zeth wrote it, but obviously no one else knows that. Since they discovered where the quote was from, which Yasna had discovered, Dalinar had gotten the book read to him several times. Oh my god, what the fuck, cats?
Feed the cats!
Yeah, exactly. They've been fed!
They want to be fed.
They've been fed.
They have not,
because they've
obviously.
been fed yesterday. Doesn't mean they don't get
they
fed
got
today.
fed today.
I don't believe you. Feed
Going
the
to feed
cats.
the cats?
No. He says that the book had been used by the Radiants as a guidebook, and Adolin is shocked to hear that it was related to the Radiants and thinks that Gavilar's death definitely has something to do with his father's delusions and visions. So what do you think about Gavilar being so obsessed with the Way of Kings enough to quote it as his final words?
I think it was,
we're kind of a little obsessed with the Way of Kings right now too. So.
I think it was less an obsession and more a realization that that book contains something actually useful. And honestly, what it speaks of, it seems like a pretty solid foundation too. I guess a new code is what you could say.
So Elhokar then comes over to them, and Adolin notes that he's handsome, although not as handsome as Adom. Elhokar also apparently has a wife back in Alethkar, who had been keeping the country running. Elhokar asks about heading back, but Dalinar replies that he won't leave the men behind, and that Elhokar shouldn't run off without guards. Elhokar agrees and asks about the saddle strap, to which Dalinar says it may have been cut. Elhokar seems to believe he was right, that it was cut, but Dalinar replies that they will have expert leather workers look at it once they are back at the war camps to confirm. As Dalinar and Elhokar go back and forth, Adolin begins to worry that Elhokar suspects them in cutting the strap. When Elhokar leaves them, Adolin tries to bring it up, however Dalinar tells him that he'll talk to Elhokar once he's less worked up, and that Adolin should focus on getting the strap looked into more. They then notice one of Sadeas' bridge crews being led by Dalinar's men to come help them across the plateaus. They had called for a bridge crew since it was faster than Dalinar's wheeled bridges. So do you think Elhokar actually thinks that Dalinar or his people may have been responsible for the saddle strap breaking, or do you think he's just annoyed that Dalinar doesn't seem to be taking him seriously?
I think the water, obviously. He just doesn't.
He's like super paranoid. And
I
I
mean,
figured, as soon as he started throwing accusations of like, oh, it's been cut, I knew it was gonna happen where they like thought it was them, where he thought it was them. Yeah.
We move back to Dalinar's point of view as he watches Adolin run off to give orders. He notes that although Adolin's shard plate is cracked, it will begin to repair itself. Praises Adolin as a great son, and that the men like him, and that even his hot-headedness could be forgiven if he could channel it properly. Dalinar then goes to see Gallant, who is no longer favoring one of his legs. He thinks the Rhysadium looks ashamed, and he tells the horse that it isn't his fault for throwing Dalinar, and that he is glad the horse. He's glad the horse.
The horse?
He's glad the horse isn't hurt more. He tells the grooms to give.
Too,
He tells the grooms to give Gallant extra feed and 2 crisp melons. And Dalinar tells Gallant that he deserves the crisp melons and that he will eat them. So what are your thoughts on Rhysadium and how? What are your thoughts on Rhysadium and how intelligent they are?
The freaking horse. It was cool. I guess all horses are intelligent regardless. Huh?
Yeah, but they specifically state that the Rhysadium are like more intelligent and stronger, superior horses.
Superior.
Guys.
Here comes the horse theory.
We found the base horse.
Oh my gosh.
We found him.
This is who we're gonna start with.
The moment they said the horse, they were talking about the horse in there. I was like, "Yep, this is gonna be darkness. This whole thing."
Oh my god! How did I not see this? He's the one. He's the chosen one.
I mean, I feel like you didn't see this because this is a extremely long chapter.
That's fair. Yeah, fuck that chapter.
So Dalinar gets on a different horse to allow Gallant to break and thinks about Sadeas's bridge cruise, not liking how quickly Sadeas goes through the men. He also thinks on a passage from the Way of Kings that compared a man carrying a stone to a king, and how the man in the Way of Kings had taken the stone from the man and carried it for him. He thinks that the book doesn't have a good reputation because of its relation to the Lost Radiance, and also because it contradicts a lot of Vorin teachings. He then thinks that he needs to keep things to himself as rumors could keep him from protecting Elhokar, even if he doesn't care what the other High Princes think of him. Before riding off, he gives a nod to the bridgemen, who he thinks carry the weight of kings. Overview questions! First of all, do you think that bridge crew that came out to get them was Kaladin's group, considering they were on bridge duty?
Yes, I do.
What do you think, Darkness? Do you think that might have been Kaladin's group?
Oh my god. The reason he can't hear his wife's name is because Kaladin is his wife.
He has sons older than Kaladin.
That's okay.
No, the reason he can't remember his wife's name is because his wife is Syl.
Oh
gosh.
Totally. That's why she can't remember anything either.
No, the reason why is because his wife is Kaladin's mother.
Oh damn! It'd be crazy if he slept with the dark.
Which also woman. That first theory that I just said, erase it. We don't want that.
Yeah, no.
Right?
Pretty sure Dalinar's in his mid to late 50s. Kaladin's 19.
Fine. It'll be fine.
Also, do you think
we've seen worse?
Also, do you think have we?
I'm pretty sure.
I mean, aside from I guess the only one I can think of would be fucking Mistborn with whatever the fuck his name is, father. But
oh god, fucking
I don't remember the dude's name either, so it's okay.
I don't remember the dad's name. Straff's fucking Straff.
Venture, yeah, that's it. Mr. Venture. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ventures, yeah.
I mean, all the Ventures seem to be into younger women.
Jeez.
That is kind of weird.
Alright, like father, like son. So.
Oh my gosh. Also, do you think that Dalinar and Kaladin's stories are going to cross over at some point during this book, considering they're
I literally just told you.
Yes.
They're either lovers or.
Oh my god.
Relatives. I hate myself for saying this.
Oh my god. Lovers or relatives. That's a big gap there.
Also, what are your overall thoughts on Dalinar and the rest of the royal family?
I only like him.
You only like Dalinar? You don't like Renarin or Adolin or Elhokar?
No, I don't like any of them either. So.
Well, I kind of like Adolin, but he's a horse, so.
He's a bit of a man whore. It's fine.
That's why you like him, though.
Yeah, that's why you like him.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
You like him because they're a horse.
He's entertaining because of that.
Oh, man.
My last overview question was, do you think Kaladin is going to be able to get the rest of Bridge 4 to train with him and, get them into shape?
Yeah,
yes, 100%.
They're going to die anyway, but yeah.
I don't know if they're going to die. I think they're going to be, the one that survives, and the one dude is going to get all the credit for it, which is going to suck, but,
At that point I would slaughter him.
Would you?
I mean, that's what
Yeah.
he's gonna try to do. I'm sure. It's already known as the guy who murdered their last master. So.
So next episode we'll be reading chapters 16 to 18. So only 3 chapters next time.
Oh wow,
They're
you're
gonna be
actually
long
gonna
again. Jesus.
you're gonna pin them
I
again?
pinned
That's
them.
crazy.
She never pins them.
I
Never.
pinned it
We
already.
all know. We all know she never pins it. Darkness. It's okay.
Yeah, they are long chapters. So yeah.
No, they're
Yeah.
long chapters.
Well, yeah. That's why we only get like
Yeah,
fucking
that's
3
why
of
there's
them.
only 3.
But they're long.
So yeah, enjoy.
And on next Sunday, I'm going to be slogging through it.
Well, thank you guys all so much for watching or listening. We
No.
really appreciate it.
Watching and listening.
Yep, and we'll see you next week.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.